Welcome back. This is a KTN News Special with me, Abi Agina. As we focus on just safeguarding the reproduction of donkeys in the country, what can we do to increase the population and educate our very important citizens on why donkeys can be a resource for you out there in rural Kenya or even within the urban cities, depending on where you stay? Well, before we can actually carry on with the discussion, I'd like us to pause and take a look at this upcoming story. As the demand for donkey products hit the international markets, some of the Kenyan farmers have taken advantage of the increasing gap in supply, making huge profits out of sale of the beasts of burden. KTN's Joan Leting now reports.
Nduhio is a renowned donkey farmer who for the past 5 years has carved his own niche in donkey farming, of which he says has been an extraordinary venture.
Sinafanya kazi ya kutransport makaa, waru, inafanya hata mahindi na transport kutoka msituni, halafu na puda moja kutoka kwa msituni kufikisha hapa nalipa wa shilingi 400.
Besides owning over 10 donkeys which he hires out daily, he milks lactating genets or mothers. He attests that the donkeys are his greatest assets.
Nimepata mali mingi kutoka kwa puda, nimenunua shamba, nimenunua plots, nimesomesha watoto naye.
It is time to milk. Nduhio arms himself with milking jelly, a jug and a rope to tie off a difficult journey.
Lidi wakati unakamua saa hiyo puda, inatakiwa ukunywe saa hiyo hiyo tu. Alafu ukiwa unataka kunywa kesho, unaweka kwa fridge.
A newly lactating mother produces at least a liter of milk per day if the foal does not suckle. Donkey milk, he says, is not boiled for effectiveness.
Mwenyewe nimeshatibu watu na maziwa ya punda. Walikuwa natoka Bugoma, wengine Kakamega, wengine Kisumu, na nimetibu wengi sana na wamepona. Wamepona hayo magonjwa asthma, arthritis, yani magonjwa yote. Ile magonjwa inalemea hospitali.
His dream is to expand production, add value and to supply to thousands of clients across the country who take them for medicinal values. According to research, the composition of donkey milk is similar to human milk, with good tolerance and high palatability. It is rich in lactose and proteins, contributing to the intestinal absorption of calcium, essential for bone growth.
For that report. And we want to take your questions from our viewers watching us from different locations across the country. We want to have the first one coming in from the African Unyielding Voice. He's asking, donkey population has drastically reduced has actually drastically improved since the legal slaughter was introduced. I fear soon these animals are going to be extinct. Well, let's take another question here from Samuel Veuri. He's saying, are there practices by the owners that hinders donkey reproduction? Well, some questions we can actually get some quick answers from our panelists. Let me bring in Dr. Kinoti. We've seen a very important question there from Theory asking, are there practices that the farmers might be doing that have affected donkey reproduction, and what do they need to change?
Thank you, Abby. Yes, there are practices actually that the farmers do that hinder the reproduction. But before I come to that, I want to paint a small little picture here. Why donkeys in Kenya and actually in Africa? Worldwide, the population of donkeys is concentrated in developing countries. 96% actually of the donkeys of the world are in developing countries. Why are they there? Because they do work. When countries develop, probably, get out of this. But Kenya and Africa, as we speak now, we need this animal. And why do we need this animal? Actually, God created it probably with Africa in mind. Do you know that the donkey is the only animal that was first domesticated in Africa. The scientific name of the donkey is Equus africanus asinus. The Africanus word on the species is actually meaning it's an African animal. It was first domesticated in the Nubian and the Egyptian areas. When you begin hearing of the agrarian revolution of Egypt, it was actually really driven by the donkey. But why the donkey? Because the donkey is an animal that is highly adapted in the very, very dry areas. If you give a cow a kilo of feed, say hay, and give the donkey a kilo of feed, the donkey will generate 3 or 4 times of nutrients out of that. Why? Because of the anatomy of his GIT, the gastrointestinal tract. It does something called heat gut fermentation, the way the God created it. So it's really an animal for the dry, arsal areas. In Kenya, you know, we are talking of 70 to 80% of our country being dry, arsal areas. So basically, really, the donkey is the most adopted for that. Even, you know, when you look at it, the long ears, what are they for? Is actually for the cooling system, for the cooling of the blood. It's really for that. But then farmers do some of the things that really depress the numbers of the donkeys. One example is they castrate the males. Why do they castrate the males? Because then they say anasumbua. They don't want the male to be jumping on every female it finds on the road. They want it to be disciplined and to take, you know, the wares to the market and back. And going back to the first point that the CAS, Madam CAS talked about, we don't want to give them the social time. We don't want to give the donkeys the social time. So then you castrate it and it becomes more disciplined. But you know what the castration means is that actually, even when it gets the free time, it can't breed. So then the numbers begin to depress.
Very true.
I have seen actually in some rural areas, I went somewhere in some peri-urban area, actually in Moya, and found young men there telling me that these donkeys of ours, we feed them, you know, there's, I think it's a dye that in rural areas they call blue. So you feed that to a female donkey, it doesn't reproduce, it doesn't come on heat. There's a way it just interferes with the hormonal balance of the body. But why is that young man doing that? And actually, these are cases of mainly the young people, the young men. They do that because then they don't want it to come on heat, and then there's a fall, and you know, then, you know, when it's born this fall, it can't really do the carrying of the burdens every single day. So they want to maximize on the donkey and overburden it. So these are some of the injurious practices. And us as NGOs, actually, we go down to communities and we're really saying these things will have to stop. Because I can tell you, Abby, as at today, I have droves of community members, those whose donkeys were stolen. They need donkeys, but they can't get them. They can't get them because a woman in Narok can't afford 20,000 shillings to buy a donkey that works, unless she goes and buys a small one, probably a small little foal, the young one of a donkey. They'll be sold at 5,000 shillings, but then, you know, you have really to keep it for another 3-4 years before you begin working. Through those 3-4 years, the woman can't just stay without water, or rather the water will be on her back. So basically, we have a big deficit of donkeys in Kenya today. Communities are really looking for them. You played a story of Mzee Ndohio there of Kamere in Naivasha. The Mzee, his donkeys were stolen at some point. He is actually looking for donkeys to buy so that he adds to his flock, you know, to his herd. He can't get donkeys actually to work. So we need the numbers. And it's great to hear Madam JB saying the government is going to work together with every of the actors to see that these numbers get rebuilt again. And
Thank you,
that's why when
Daktari.
some of us hear that,
All
there
right.
could be a possibility of the slaughterhouses opening or reopening, we get shivers on our spines.
Thank you.
Because then we can't think with the struggling communities where numbers are not adding up. If we began really doing an off-take again, that will be a disaster for this country, for the poor, for the marginalized, because the donkey is a poor man's how.
Thank you, Daktari. And just briefly, because we're about to wrap up this discussion, Doctor, I'd like to hear your views again around why is donkey meat unique, and what is it that is driving the demand for donkey meat? Maybe help us understand so that we can demystify the myths around donkey meat. Dr. Kilimo, please proceed.
Oh, that is me, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It is not so much about the donkey meat. It is the hide, the skin of the donkey. Yeah, they say that there is a gelatin that it has not been scientifically proven, but people believe that, especially China, where where most of this is exported, they use it for beauty products. They say it is an anti-aging gel kind of. It will boost your immunity.
Seriously?
So a lot of meat. Yes.
Okay.
That is what they say. Florence said something called EJIAO, EJIAO. It is gotten from boiling the skin of the donkey.
Okay.
And they say it's aging, strengthens your blood, it will boost your immunity, it's a beauty product.
Okay.
So this is why they are after the donkey. At some point, we were given a testimony of a donkey that was slaughtered, and the meat was left there, carcass was left, but the skin was taken. I think it's a black market kind of.
All right.
So that is it's this, yeah.
All right. And
earlier, I had told you when Florence said that earlier for the licensing of these slaughterhouses, people were told to sell their donkeys, they will get motorbikes. And I give an example of my own home where our donkey used to be put burden, and then you just send it, knows where it goes. A donkey, once you have trained it, it will just go alone. You don't need another person to look after it or to take it, carry the burden to that place and back. A woman will put the side of the donkey with water, and it will go home. And you can go picking firewood along the way.
Interesting. Very interesting. Thank you so much, Dr. And we want to wrap up the conversation, and I don't want to leave out Margaret, who is still with us on the line. Na Margaret, tukimalizia, ukiangalia na ukikaa pale nyumbani na wenzako, ni nini ungependa kusikia serikali imefanya ili kuwezesha wakulima wengi wawe na punda ili kuweza kujizuia kutokana na kubeba mizigo, kuchelewa pale shambani? Ningependa uzungumze nasi kwa ufupi.
Kwa mimi ningependa kuambia serikali, wakitukiona wametufungia hiyo slota, sisi tunaona tuko mbele sana. Kwa sababu nikiwa na punda yangu, hakuna siku nitasema atiwacha nikalilie serikali. Ama hakuna siku nitaambia nitajaza makaratasi ati upate msaada ama upate basari. Ninajua punda yangu ndio ananichunga, na punda yangu ndio ananilinda, na punda yangu ndio anachunga hata watoto yangu. Ukijaribu kuangalia kwa hivi sasa, corona imefika, watoto tumerudishiwa nyumbani, ikakuwa kama corona ndio mimba ya wasichana wetu. Sasa tukiwa wamama tunaumia kubebana na maji, kwa sababu hawa watoto ni lazima wachotewe maji mingi tupate usafi ndani ya boma. Tunataka maji mifugo yetu wakunywe ndani ya boma. Tunataka maji ili tupate kujisaidia na maji yetu, kwa sababu tumejaribu kulia tuletewe maji karibu, hatuoni. Tumejaribu kulia tutengeneza mabarabara, hakuna. Lakini huyu punda hana mambo mingi. Punda yangu ndamfunga, ndampeleka soko, nitakuja na 200 yangu, Punda yangu ndamchukua niende mtoni, nikuje na maji, niende na kuni, yani punda yangu wananisaidia kwa kila njia. Kwa hivyo mimi ile kitu ningeomba serikali wafunge kichinjio, maana punda yangu hata kama ni mmoja atanisaidia. Na hakuna siku punda ataniambia jaza makaratasi ama uenda kwa maofisi ukapange laini. Hakuna. Punda yangu nimshibishe, akunywe maji, nimfunge aweze kulala mzuri na akule na ashibe. Kwa hivyo mimi ningependa tu kuambia serikali wafunge kichinjio, waache kutuletea hasara tukia kina mama. Hiyo ndio mkono ya kina mama. Ndio ningeomba serikali wapese kufanya hivyo.
Asante sana. Najua waziri amesikia na wataendelea kutimiza. And that is where we want to wrap up this very important discussion here on KTN News. We thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for taking time to listen to this very vital discussion. My name is Abi Agina. I also want to salute my panelists, that is Dr. JB Kilimo, Dr. Kinoti, and Madam Ndeti. Thank you all for speaking to us. Time has run out, but we hope to do this again another time. We say kwaheri na tuzidi kumchunga punda. Asante. Well, see you next time. Have a lovely viewing after this.